Young Victorian junior Ray Yang was facing an attack by the Black Queen from Fritz van der Waal, targeting the c3 pawn. How is he going to deal with it, and what would you do if you were white in this chess position?
Good evening, everyone. Today's game is a game from the 2013 Australian Open, a round 6 game between Ray Yang and Fritz van der Waal with the black pieces. On paper, this looks like a massive upset. On the official site, we have Ray Yang's rating of 956 versus Fritz van der Waal's rating of 1852. However, on closer inspection, this is not maybe so much of an upset. Ray Yang, ranked 419 in Victoria, is 956 on the ACF list, but has a FIDE rating of 1625, gained at recent MCC tournaments, and has a fairly reliable MCC rating that's only been going up, that's 1534. Whereas Frank van der Waal's rating is difficult to clearly ascertain. On the New South Wales list, he's ranked 184, and his ACF is 1753. I'm not quite sure where this 1852 rating came from. On the FIDE list, it's hard to search up his name. In fact, I struggled to find van der Waal on the FIDE list for some unbeknown reason. So it is difficult to gauge the relative strength between the two players, but one thing is for certain, Ray Yang is definitely a lot stronger than 956 ACF. So let's have a look at his game. And the good thing about games like this is that the Australian Open is for all chess players in Australia, and every now and again in these large Swisses you get to see the emerging talent rise to the top. They start producing some big results in these big tournaments, and because they're a great place for younger players to show what they've got in a better atmosphere with strong national players. And I think it's always pretty good for juniors to try and play in these events if they can. So Ray opens with d4, and Fritz plays knight f6 in Indian defence, c4, e6, and now knight c3 and bishop b4. And we have here a standard position, for those who don't know, called the Nimzo Indian, where the idea is to for black is to pin this knight to the king and possibly exchange this bishop. Okay, so Ray has to meet the Nimzo Indian, and there's many moves in this position. He decides he's going to play the Rubinstein variation, which is a reputation for being the most solid line against the Nimzo Indian, and this suits Ray's style. c5, aggressive attempt by black to attack the centre, and a pretty normal move, and a good move as well. There's now pressure on the d4 pawn, and white makes what I think is a slight mistake. I don't think the knight is necessarily best on f3 in this square, and I think bishop d3 is a better move here. The knight isn't necessarily going to e5 because the d6 pawn here the d7 pawn can always move to d6, and if a knight's on e5, it's going to be pushed around. So it's best normally, I think, to wait to delay this knight, not to develop it straight away. But it's still a sensible developing move, and it's not a mistake. It's just not as accurate in the opening. It's less flexible. So black castles, and black's doing fine in this chess position so far. And now white puts the bishop on d3, which is where the bishop belongs in this Nimzo Indian system normally. Normally the knight's on e2, not f3. So imagine this set up with knight e2, it'd be a little bit more flexible. Black plays d5, fighting back in the center, and this is a good move. There's nothing wrong with this. Both players are playing pretty well at the moment. And castles, good simple chess. The king gets into safety. There's no need to remove the tension. The thing about the Nimzo, which makes it a little bit complicated, is there's always tension between these four pawns. And these sort of positions, when there's tension between four pawns in the middle of the board, you always have to calculate the consequences of every single exchange capture with the pawns to see if you're better, because if there's any chance of resolving that tension and getting a better position, then you should try and do it. But most of the time, the tension shouldn't be resolved, which is sort of interesting as well. Black chops. Now, I don't like this move because it's not necessary. If you have a good look at it, you may as well wait till white plays a3 before you chop the bishop. The bishop's not under attack. It's true the knight can move, but where was it going to move to? You certainly can't be afraid of the knight going to b1. And, if the knight goes to e2, it goes to e2. But it's not as if knight e2 is a great move in this position. So I'm not a big fan of chopping here. And it's certainly not so good in these sort of positions when black's already got the opportunity to get rid of this c-pawn through exchange. And so what happens is you don't end up with the double pawns here, which is not the strategical idea in the Nimzo-Indian. Nimzovich's idea was to double those c-pawns and create a blockade on them if they can, and try and utilise those pawn weaknesses as an advantage for the black pieces to get active. So here I think this bishop exchange is actually bad. It's not a blunder, but I think it's an inaccuracy. It's not a good move. So white plays a standard move, capturing with a pawn. Good move by Ray Yang. And now black's big idea is to try and get active piece play with the queen. This is easily refutable. And most players know you shouldn't bring out the queen too early. So how's queen a5 going to win a pawn here? White has many defences. They can play bishop d2, bishop b2, the queen b3, c2, d2. I mean, there's an endless amount of defences here. So beginners are taught not to bring out their queens before they develop their pieces, and I don't think putting the queen on a5 here is enough justification. You see these queen a5 ideas in Sicilians and Piets or modern defences where they have more of a point, but here it's really not the strongest move, I don't think, at all. Another inaccuracy by black. White's choice is slightly interesting. I would have probably played bishop d2 by myself, but this could be better. The bishop tries to get the long diagonal, and the one thing that I like about this move is that the long diagonal, which is this diagonal from basically from a1 to h8, can be opened up because these pawn exchanges can open it up. So Ray probably has the right idea here in a way. Probably better than bishop d2, to be honest. And now black resolves the tension in the centre. Black captures, white captures, and b5. So when I see a move like b5 here, I'm thinking the idea by black is to actually lock up the centre and to try and work on the c3 weakness, which is possible. I mean, you're going to be able to attack it with queen a5 and possibly knight d5. This knight might spring into d5 and be able to attack the c3 pawn. And this is all possible only after black gets in c4, c5 to c4. But this plan's going to not really put that much pressure on the white position. White can defend it pretty easily, and I think in actual fact this plan's going to backfire for black, and it won't be. It's not strategically strong enough here. The c3 pawn is just not that weak. It looks like it's weak, but it can't be as attacked as much as it can be defended. And if you can't keep putting pressure on the weaknesses, then the position's going to swing around on you.